Hi there, my name's Martin and I'm a Christian, and in saying that I realise that many people have difficulties with the Christian faith, but I would like you to try and suspend that for a few moments and allow me to take you on a journey with me about loneliness and how I've come to deal with loneliness in my life. Loneliness is a crushing sense of isolation. And perhaps many of us during this time of lockdown have been forced to look in the mirror and recognise the depth of pain that lies there in our lives, that sense of being completely isolated within our own little world. For me as a Christian minister, I often feel isolated in the midst of other people. I often feel lonely amidst a crowd. Let me give you an example. Usually happens because I sense antagonism or anger directed at me because of what I represent. Part of being a minister involves the privilege of being called upon to accompany people who have been bereaved. And the telephone goes and I'm asked to contact a family to go on a journey with them which begins with their sadness and grief but culminates in a funeral, and I help them to prepare for the funeral service, and then I lead that service. It is one of the great privileges of being a Christian minister. Now, the day of the funeral comes and of course there are lots of other people come and attend, a mixture of people. And with me standing at the front, I can see the reactions of all the people out there. There are those, of course, who feel completely disassociated from what's taking place. It's a Christian service of worship. For example, I'll see people standing in mute silence during the hymns. They're being true to themselves. They don't want to take words into their lips that they don't believe in. There are others who perhaps fold their arms and their eyes go heavenwards when I read something of the Christian hope. Now, let me be absolutely clear, most people are not like that. But because I'm standing at the front, I see it all. And after sensing that kind of antagonism, I can begin to feel very lonely, very cut off. It reinforces my sense of belonging to a minority group in society who are often misunderstood. So what do? When I come home and I'm feeling slightly crushed and feeling lonely and a bit upset, what do? Well, I come here into this garden. This is one of my happy places. I hope you've got some happy places. Well, I love coming in here. Although you wouldn't recognise it today, it's south facing, so it's something of a sun trap. It's surrounded by trees, and so there's an ongoing soundtrack of birdsong. And I'll grab a coffee, and I'll sit down, and I'll relax. And I'll remember who it is I follow. I'm a follower of Jesus Christ. And he was the man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. He wasn't insulated from the kind of feelings that seemed to engulf me. He knew all about it. He knows all about it. When he conducted his ministry, he provoked opposition. His words were misquoted. His motives were maligned. His actions were misrepresented. Even those closest to him at the end abandoned him. One of his close friends denied him. Another betrayed him. And then, of course, as he was being tortured to death on the cross, there was that appalling cry of dereliction. My God, why have you forsaken me? That relationship that had existed from all eternity was ruptured and broken. Jesus knew what it was to endure the most profound isolation and loneliness that I will never understand. And yet, he did that for me. He did that out of love for me and for you. I suspect that much loneliness arises out of a longing for love. And so when I'm sitting here with my coffee feeling a bit lonely and a bit desolate, then I remember that I'm the object of a supreme love, and that begins to lift me. because when you know you're the object of unconditional love, it's life transforming. Now, that's my experience. Your experience may be and will be very different. Your circumstance will be very different. How you are coming through this will be very different. But what I have found enormously transformative is to be turned away from the turmoil of my emotions and to think of the love that is shown me in the Lord Jesus Christ. And that simply introduces a new dimension to my experience and my living. I think it's turning me away from preoccupation with my circumstances. Don't change necessarily, but what does change is that I'm no longer looking at them as the focus. The focus is elsewhere, and the reassurance of being loved is like a balm on a pain and injury. What I've just shared is something of what my own experience has been like. Now I realise that your circumstances are very different from mine. You might not have a nice garden like this. You might have been during lockdown in a flat and feeling a profound sense of isolation. You may be finding relationships difficult and you feel very isolated even in the middle of relationship. I can't possibly know exactly your circumstances, but what I have discovered is that in knowing the love of Christ in my life, sitting here having my coffee, being reminded of that, it's a healing balm, knowing myself to be the object of that kind of love. And I would commend, despite whatever your resistance may be to the Christian faith, that you begin to explore it. Feel free to join us in the Dalry Trinity Church Facebook page, either to listen into some of a service or even to make contact. But your loneliness is something that you don't need to keep living with. Thank you.